once I got sentenced and I was going to jail, there was the roar in the prison system because everyone wanted me on their team.
The I Catch Killers podcast was a fresh start for me, as I left policing behind and started a new life. Over the years, we've laughed together, cried, and shared some powerful moments. Welcome to I Catch Killers. I enjoyed our chat in part one and getting a bit of an understanding of who you are and what got you to the point. Sorry, when we left you in prison or just starting a prison term. It's not a good place to leave you over a break. But I want to talk about that whole prison experience and how your mindset, you had to change your mindset and turn it, what is, for all intents and purposes, a negative into a positive for yourself. So those first couple of months in prison, what was there any sort of watershed moments that you thought, okay, I've got to go down this path?
Yeah, I think so. I was because I wasn't rated as a minimum prisoner just yet. It took a couple of months to get to that, so I was in a maximum facility. I think just seeing how people went about things, and as we spoke about the politics in there, how people go about, like
when you say the politics with the inmates, the politics within the inmates, or politics in the whole system.
Oh, I suppose within the inmates, like, you know, there might have little cliques hanging with different cliques. There's, you know, it could be drugs and other things or whatever else, or paraphernalia sort of, you know, involved, and just to be able to make sure you steer clear of this or and that kind of stuff. It's you know, you sort of did sort of see things and whatever else, but then, you know, or not see anything, but hear about things, and, you know, just wanted to make sure that you didn't want to be involved with, you know, people within that kind of stuff. If you'd say g'day and all that kind of stuff, but then not be involved and sort of hang around too much, because if you hang around certain people get a perception of things. You might put even more of a target on your back. You never know. That could be.
It's difficult, isn't it? It is politics at the extreme.
It could be from the prison officers. It could be from other inmates. Yeah. So just to be able to, you know, stay in my lane and, you know, focus solely on, you know, trying to get closer and, you know, to see my girls again. And Barbara, that was the main focus.
Having your brother there in prison, it's your younger brother, isn't it? Yeah. I would have sensed there's the protective older brother, and because of what happened, I got you involved in this too. Did you feel protective of him?
Oh, for sure I did. Like we were two out together, and, you know, he you know, all of his sentence he was mainly with me. So, but yeah, I you know, as an older brother and, you know, being responsible for him being in prison, I wanted to make sure and look after him and make sure he was right as well as he could. You know, going back, speaking on those, trying to turn positives into negatives, you're in prison, that you probably wouldn't think there's too many positives to come out of that. Like, how can you have a positive mindset? But still there was, and I was able to shift that. And even with my brother, you know, to be able to try to support him as much as I could. He was probably a little bit more easygoing and sort of went with the flow a little bit more than I did initially. And but yeah, I think that, you know, that sense of you know, I've used it term quite a fit, accountability and responsibility for my brother, you know, something that I wanted to, you know, sort of help me bide my time as well. Like to be able to make sure not only thinking about myself, but, you know, how's he going, what's he up to, and sort of how's he going about things. Like, he wouldn't, sometimes men speaking about their feelings and thoughts is hard to, you know, it's hard to do, and people don't do it. Yeah, well, you know, so
as a rule, how are you going? Good. How are you going? Good.
Yeah, that's it.
The podcast is pretty short.
Oh, that's it. I think
good.
It'd be like part 4 by now if it was. But yeah, you know, to being my brother and understanding, you know, probably moods or shifts in his moods or how he might be, you know, acting, to, you know, be able to pick up on that and be able to, you know, you're making sure he's all right. And, you know, sometimes you're not going to be able to say too much when other people are around, but then when we're on our own, to have those conversations. But he's still kept his cards, you know, pretty close to his chest. But yeah, in a way, like, I don't know, it's hard to say this, like, being in that situation, but having my brother there with me was, I don't know, like, the supportive.
Yeah,
I had his support. He had mine, sort of thing. But it was, but it's tough to still be able to understand that we had to be in that situation to have that sort of mindset.
Right. Day to day, what's the day to day of prison? When we'll break it down, because you went when you were classified in maximum security, then you got declassified. But your initial parts, the first couple of months before you got reclassified, what's your day to day
So we'd have muster, which is like a count to be able to make sure that no one's escaped, and welfare checks to be able to make sure nothing's happened to anyone overnight, and to be able to. So you stand in front of your door at about 7 o'clock and just get ticked off. They check your badge. You've got a badge that you've got to wear with you all the time, and then you have I think rec time, I think they called it, and to be able to you can either go outside your unit where you are to be able to go for a walk on the oval or play basketball, things like that, and that would go to probably just before lunchtime. You'd have another muster, another count, and then you'd have some rec time in the afternoon as well. So the time that I had. And then you'd get locked in your cell at about 6:30, I think it was. So you'd have obviously lunch served to you at lunchtime, dinner served to you around 5:30, 5 o'clock, and then to be able to have a little bit of time before you got locked into your cell for the night and get released 7 o'clock the next morning. So that's what the day-to-day looked like. During those times with rec, I try to be as active as I could, I suppose, to either playing basketball, having a kick of the footy, or just going for a walk. And unfortunately, I had friends and family members in there, so I'd go and catch up with them and have a bit of a yarn. And unfortunately, there'd be times I hadn't seen people for a long time, and it was sad that I had to catch up with them in prison. So, but that's sort of what my day-to-day looked like initially.
Yeah, the repetition, isn't it, is a routine that you get into in prison. Training, keeping yourself fit, was that part of it? Yeah,
that was a huge part of my incarceration, just to be able to keep my mind off things. When you're training, you're worrying about exactly what you're doing, whether it be boxing on the pads, or you're going for a run, or you're playing basketball, or any kind of sports, cricket. The guys in there, they love their footy. So, there's some footy games in there, and the team that I was playing for, obviously they wanted to look for me to coach and do all this kind of stuff. So
I was going to say, like, you get through, and you've got this reputation. You're an AFL footballer. People are going to look at you, go, "Hey, let's do some training. Let's get you on the football team." All that type of stuff. Did that play out?
Yeah, it did. I heard the guys said as well, which is not a great thing now, but I can sort of have a laugh about it. But once I got sentenced and I was going to jail, there was the roar in the prison system, because everyone wanted me on their team. So
I can have a laugh about it
now, but obviously during the time it wasn't the greatest thing.
Wasn't that funny at the time?
No, I didn't find it too humorous, Gary. No, but
no, I could understand.
Looking back on it now, you can have a bit of a giggle about it and see how far I've come from that experience. But then they have that balance as well. There's a hierarchy in there as well, so you don't want to be overstepping your boundaries or on people's toes that might be elders in that space and think that everything because I played footy.
Yeah.
So there was a balance.
I didn't want to act like I knew everything, but if they wanted advice or support or whatever, I was certainly open.
That shows a lot of emotional intelligence, because I could see someone coming in there and just go, well, "Yeah, I got this. Move aside." But there's some bloke there that's been running the football team for years is not going to take too kindly to that.
Might not go down too well, Gary. No.
Yeah. What was your relationship like with the prison officers? When did you and I know it's always hard for inmates to talk about relationships with corrective services or prison officers and vice versa, because they know that there's a role that they've got to do, and there's a divide there. But did you develop relationships with prison officers?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it wasn't until I was rated as a minimum prisoner. Like the only interaction I really had was when I had to either go to a visit, or you get called up and you got mail, and that was about it. You got your name called up and you get your mail, and that was about it. Yeah, thanks, and that was it. So, and then you didn't really talk to prison officers, or I didn't talk to prison officers too much in the maximum facilities, But then once I did get to the minimum facility, I was involved. My job there was to clean the gym and make sure the gym equipment's all can be used and all that kind of stuff. So being involved in there, we had to check in with the sport and rec officer every day and see what needed to be done, and just seeing them every day. But then also understanding how we interacted with you, you get a pretty good gauge on people with how they are, and what kind of stuff you can, how you can talk and how you can interact with them. And this particular rec officer, he was really good. He'd just come and have a yarn, and obviously knowing about footy, they always loved talking about footy. So that was probably a barrier to break down, and I was really lucky that through footy that was people or prison officers, they loved footy. They obviously knew Dad, and they could have that conversation, and not think that you're in prison, like the human side of it, as we spoke about before. So just to have those interactions, and then understand, well, this guy's involved in the programs I want to be in. I want to be involved in, and what's going to help me. With mine.
The programs are we talking there?
Cricket during the cricket season, so you'd come out and play on an outside comp on a Sunday. Basketball, you'd go to an outside comp on a bus and play on Friday night, and then obviously come back to prison. And during footy season, you do the same, like similar to cricket. So, being involved in those programs, making sure you had to do the right thing, and you had to be respectful as well. And we were lucky that the officer. He had the same respect for us as well. He gave it to us black and white. This is what it is. This is what you need to do. This is what's required. You bugger up, everyone buggers up. So it puts the onus and accountability back on us to be able to make sure we're doing the right thing and have that respect for officers as well. And probably breaking down those barriers, because that's something that I didn't see, in the first two facilities I was at.
Respect's such an important thing, isn't it? If someone shows you respect and shows you a little bit of humanity,
it's not about
stuffing up. You don't want to stuff up because you don't want to, betray the trust they've put in you.
Yeah, that's right. And even going out, like you'd be at the cricket on the Sunday, and then all of a sudden, you're in an area probably 50, 60 metres, but the officers aren't right on your shoulder looking over you. Like you have to do the right thing. You do the wrong thing, you get moved to another prison, and you won't be involved in these programs again. So, we knew that he liked a bit of food. So if there was some nice food over there, we'd give him a bite and things like that, and that kept us in the good books as well. But even that, a prisoner giving an officer some food, that was sort of unheard of. You can do things like that, but he was a good bloke, and he respected us, and we had a good relationship.
And the respect was returned from you guys.
It certainly was.
taking advantage of it.
I think people, the public, might listen and think, what the hell, playing cricket, being let out, play cricket and do this and do that. I personally think, and I'm looking at from a ex-cop, so I'm not a bleeding heart, I think it's a good thing. I think you've got to be able to allow people to, have some purpose in their life, give them some responsibility before they're released back into society. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. It's a part of reintegration. We're sort of, if you had a minimum facility, you're probably on the down, on the bottom end of your sentence, and you're looking to get out and sort of get back into society. So if you can have these small steps to be able to come back out, and because sometimes if you're in prison for a while, a lot changes. Social media, whatever else. How far that's come. Some blokes have been in prison and
we're in a safari suit.
That's right. They don't see the pay pass or mobile phones and the earpieces and all things like that. So to be able to have those small steps to be able to come back and be involved, and even though it's still a little bit tough to be able to do that kind of stuff, but I think it's really important just to be able to give that little bit of a test and that taste, just to be able to, okay, this is what it's going to be like when you get out, and it's probably not so scary once you do get released. So I was lucky enough to be involved in a few programs as well, so to be able to help my transition.
What sort of programs are we talking there?
So with the sporting ones, but then also prisoner employment programs.
And the sporting program, that was in WA?
So it was the last couple of months of my sentence. I was able to go and catch a bus down to Sawn Districts, so to the footy club, to be able to go down there and work there throughout the day. So I'd have a prisoner officer where I had to have that relationship as well, because it'd be quite awkward sitting in the car not talking for 10 minutes. So you'd have a yarn, and then you'd understand the responsibility that they've got with you to, well, I'm going to drop you off here. You got your smart rider or smart card, I think it is, what they call it over Mikey, over there. But get on the bus, get on the train, do the right thing. Well, you don't do the right thing, you're going to go to a maximum facility, loss of privileges, and probably more sentence on your time. So, more time on your sentence, sorry. So to be able to have those conversations, and that was a part of my day-to-day, to jump in and have a yarn with the officers and see how he's going. Obviously, there's only so much they can talk about, and they're not going to delve into their personal life, but then, whether it be a footy game on the weekend or whatever.
You put two people together, and it's amazing the communications that you do have, and there's nothing worse than sitting there awkward if there's no...
No, that's right.
It's obviously all these
steps, programs and all that has had a positive impact on you, but you're demonstrating hearing your story and just the attitude that you've got, that if anyone was going to make it, there was a good chance you're going to turn a negative round into a positive with your time in prison. Have you got and we don't have to name names, but did you see other fellas that bought into the type of programs that could have gone different ways, but these programs that you're talking about made a difference?
Yeah, 100%. I know some guys that I was inside with, and they've come out and been involved in these programs and doing so well at the moment now. So
yeah,
it does work.
It has had those impacts, and one in particular, he's sort of, he had similar relationships with the sports and, officers and rec officers that I did as well. So, it does have an impact. It's hard enough to be able to, be in prison, and that you don't want to make your life any harder with, having disagreements, and, that you don't really need to. And, sometimes a lot of the stuff in there, it could be with the tone of voice or, how people are spoken to. People take it the wrong way. It's disrespect. All of a sudden, well, their day's ruined, and that's it. They're up in all arms and
escalates.
Going about it the wrong way. But then if you can build those relationships and understand, that, the impact, and no doubt it helped me. It helped me get through my prison sentence and sort of helped me through my transition back into society.
And with the we'll call them naysayers, but that's probably they're perhaps ignorant to it. But the people that say no, if you're in prison, you should be punished because you're in prison. What's your response to that?
If they had a loved one in prison, their mindset would change. So 100% it would. It's sometimes I just think, well, yeah, you're a prisoner. That's it. You're staying there. You need to be punished. Yeah, well, yeah, we do the wrong thing. There's consequences because of that. But then we want to try to rehabilitate and make people better community members, don't we? Once they've gone through that, so if we're just going to lock them up for the sake of locking them up and not going to help them to try to be more valuable community members or to be able to understand their offending, what are we really doing? So the naysayers, obviously they're going to be saying that, and they have every right to, because the victim of crimes that when people offend, that impacts them, and it causes a lot of trauma as well. So I fully understand, where that side's coming from as well. So we just need to be able to understand and have empathy, I suppose, and care, and be able to understand if you make a mistake, that doesn't define you for the rest of your life. You're able to turn it around and change, and not everyone's a bad person. Sometimes, as I spoke about before, we just make a mistake and do the wrong thing. Obviously, if you do it over and over and over again, well, whatever, it should be harder for you to be able to get parole and get out than, if you're doing the same thing over and over, making the same mistake. But then, if you do the right things and put things in place, where a lot of people, the naysayers or people on the outside or in community, don't see that and understand what's required. All they do see is someone's got parole, or they did the wrong thing on parole. All of a sudden, lock them up, don't ever let them out again. So it's but it's hard for people. Like, sometimes people are only in their bubble, and that's all that.
Well, you mentioned and you talk empathy and you talk victims, and part of my thing through my police career was making sure I spoke up for the victims and fight hard for the victims. But with prison, and I've learnt this from a gentleman by the name of Ken Marslew, and his son was killed in an armed robbery. He was working in the Pizza Hut, and the offenders came in and shot his son, 19 years old, with a shotgun. So if anyone's got a right to be angry about law and order issues, it's Ken, and he doesn't mind me saying this because we've become good friends. Ken was so angry when that happened, and he wanted, if you've done the crime, throw away the key, that type of thing, make them break rocks. He's turned around and he's changed his thinking about being smart about crime. In this country, we've got such a high rate of recidivism. So people go into prison, come out, and then go back in. We've also got the high incarceration rate with our First Nations people, which is outrageous. We've got to try and break the cycle somehow. So the type of programs you're talking about, it's not taking that hard line on crime, but if it's not working, let's try and change things. What's your take on that? And I just wanted to bring in the point that victims feel comfortable, because what Ken says to me, because I challenge him about it, going, but your son was murdered. If anyone should be angry about criminals, he's gone, I want to reduce crime. I want to see crime reduce. There's then less victims. So if there's a way of reducing crime by perhaps treating prisoners like humans and giving them respect, setting courses that they can do and things that they can do, if that stops them going back in, it's not being weak, it's reducing crime and therefore reducing victims. So it's just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Gary. I think, once someone gets involved in the justice system, you've got to be able to understand the crime they committed and their offending and how they did it, and ways to be able to break those cycles, because, you speak to people in prison, they don't want to be there to be able to go back. Like, I've got, family members, and, they speak about wanting to try to break the cycle as well. That's not the life they want to live. Yeah. So they need to be able to, as you said, sometimes, I hope I hope the prisons do think outside the box and think, okay, well, how do we really, whether the term they use, rehabilitate, or to be able to make them more valuable community members, how do they do that? And whether it's, being a part of these programs, they're prisoners. Well, sometimes someone's going to bugger up. Yes, absolutely they are. But I think, to sort of wipe the slate clean, then all of a sudden no one gets an opportunity is really tough. But the impact that I've seen firsthand, what it does and what it can do. Like, I'm not sitting here today thinking, because it sounds good, they should do this and let's go and get out on a Sunday and play cricket. None. I was seeing it firsthand, and the impact, and you see the bus rides out going to the cricket, everyone's up and about, rowdy, everyone's hell happy, and then going back we're all sad because we leave our family. It's a hard bus trip back, but then guys that were involved in those, especially, I'm not going to speak on their behalf, I'm speaking on my experience, that helped me get through mine. That helped me become a better person. That helped me come out and be a more valuable community member, to be able to give back and help and support, and to be able to speak to young fellas and family members, and that may be going through be in touch with the justice space, to be looking outside the square, looking at, who you hang around with, what else can you do to try to break cycles. Sometimes you only know what you know. And how can you change something if that's all you know? Yeah. So to be able to look outside the box and try a different path, and I can speak on that because that's what I've been able to do, and that's what I've seen. So they do help, and they do make a hell of a difference.
Your story when you got out, what was it like getting out when you've been released? Now, the programs that we talk about, you're involved in the sport, and can we just explore that a little bit more? The employment, post prison employment.
So the prison employment program. So I could go down there. So I think it was 2 months. Probably every week. I think it was start off with 2 days a week, and then it eventually got it more and more. That helped heaps. It was all of a sudden I was on a bus on my own, and then catching a train and going. I was able to go and get some food and things like that. So it was huge for me, and that helped with my transition. And it was initially it was scary. Like you're sitting there on a train and you're a prisoner, but then you're going out and you're in community, going out to do something that you've been obviously had to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to get accepted to be a part of that program. And there's a lot of people that are supporting you and hoping you don't do the wrong thing. So people, and I like to live by this as well, people who've gone out on a limb and got faith in you, I want to try to repay that faith, and do the right thing back. So not everyone has to do those things to you, or to be able to help and support you. So that's what I wanted to try to do. But it certainly helped me with my transition.
And those little things that give you some hope and direction in life. Because when you came out of prison, did you start? You stayed over in WA?
Yeah. So yep.
Then you started playing with the Swans.
Yeah, so speaking about sort of being released, like, it was quite scary, even coming back to the footy club, so I didn't see too many of the boys.
Are you worried that people are looking at you too? Because you carry that, do you feel like you're still wearing the prison greens and everyone's talking behind your back going, he's just got out of prison? Yeah,
it was well documented throughout the media over in WA, so everyone knew what had happened, and you were that, pretty sheepish, and that shame factor as well, going back to a footy club and what's everyone thinking of you. I remember the first session I went back, I was stood right at the back of the group and, sort of in the corner on my own. And I remember the coach saying to me, he said his spill and whatever else about the training session. And then he said, and on another note, Cracks, it's great to see you back, mate. We're really looking forward to what you can do this year. And that was just a huge relief off my shoulders, and thinking far out previously to the CEO, before I got incarcerated.
Yeah.
these guys got my best
interest at heart. They want to support me and my family. What can I do to repay the faith that these people have had in me? So my ambition wasn't to play footy again or do anything. It was just really repaying the faith that they had in me. And luckily, the year went all right.
Yep, and that you ended up getting signed again, didn't you, with the AFL?
Yes. So it was a really good year. Obviously, as in team sports, you want to be able to win premierships together. We were able to do that, and individually, I had a really good year as well, collecting every accolade there was.
I think you've been humble. You smashed.
I'm a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
I want me to blow my own horn, do you, mate?
a lot about it, but my reading of it, you smashed it.
Well, for the sake of listeners who may not understand the WAFL, so I won the Sandover medal, which is the best and fairest in the comp. The Simpson medal, which is the best on ground in the grand final, and I won probably nearly every media award there was, through the.
Now you just brag.
I'm a bit excited now, so I'll let you know then, Gary. But yeah, so that, and then we were able to win the grand final, and I had a pretty good game. So, yeah, and but then that was a reflection moment as well, Gary.
Yeah,
made me think. Okay, what was I doing 12 months prior? I was in prison.
Yeah,
I was touching the clothes. I was, half a foot away from the roof of my cell, thinking, how am I going to get through this? And then 12 months later, I'm a Sandover medalist. I've, been a part of an amazing organisation in the Swan Districts Footy Club with amazing people who've supported me. Now I'm on the cusp of coming back in the AFL system. That doesn't happen.
No.
And especially from a First Nations perspective, once you're in the system, you're in the system, and it's that recidivism. You're going through the gates, and it's like a revolving door. So to be able to break that cycle, I look, and at the time, I didn't realise that. It's just all I want to do is be dad. All I want to do is be out there for my girls and support them, and I'm going to be able to trying to make it up forever for what I did and what I took away from them. So, and still doing it to this day. You just try to do what you can because you understand what they went through because of my actions. And to be able to look back on it now and understand what I was able to do and how I did it. And yes, I was the man in the arena, I suppose, and did it all, but I had amazing support. I had great people around me, and I'm under no illusion that wasn't the case.
Well, I don't think anyone can really succeed in life, and especially when you're struggling, as you were at the different stages of your life, without people helping you. Yeah, one person can make a huge difference in someone's life, can't they? Just showing a bit of trust in you.
Yeah, that's right. And, there was, in my case, there were people from different walks of life. There were prison officers, there were family members, there were friends. So it was a collective, football club teammates. So it was the collective of people that helped me, with my transition from incarceration back into society, and then in through the WAFL system back into the AFL. So I look back on it, it's a pretty crazy journey.
It is a crazy journey, and I think that's why people are genuinely interested in it, because as you said, there's not many that would, once you're in the system, you tend to stay in the system, in the First Nations, and just recidivism across the country, and you've managed to break that cycle. And tell us, you've after your bragging rights from the you did actually nail it. I was spending a bit of time over in WA around that time, so yeah, I know how big it was. You got back into the AFL?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get picked up by the Pies. So they did have a chat with me halfway through the year, but still, as I said, I was happy in Perth. I was happy being with my family, my girls, my missus, and I didn't really feel like I needed to go anywhere else, and I felt like I had my time in the AFL, and probably that's past me now. So after having the conversation, with the recruiting officer there, manager, that was that. And then at the end of the year, obviously after the grand final, that was probably that was it. The writing was on the wall now that I was going to get an opportunity to.
Someone's going to approach.
So, and they were keen. They said, basically, if you're keen to come over, we'll take you. So a little conversation with Barbara that didn't take too long, and away we moved back to Naarm.
Yeah. And how long did you stay in the AFL this time?
3 years. I was
3 years with Collingwood.
From 2011 to 13. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's you've made a nice career from it, haven't you?
Yeah, looking back on it, 10 years in the AFL system, when you think on average it's, probably 2 to 3, I think, as an average player.
Yeah.
And then with a prison sentence with 16 months, it's a remarkable story and journey. But then, just sort of that AFL journey with the break in between.
Let's call it your second shot at AFL, played in the AFL Grand Final.
Yeah, 2011 we played the Geelong Cats. Unfortunately for us, or myself, they were too good for us, but even that experience, the whole week training, obviously there's two Melbourne sides in the grand final, was absolutely madness. AFL is a culture here in Naarm, so yeah, it was an amazing experience to look back on, to be able to go through the parade through the city, the lead up to at training events. There was thousands of people, tens of thousands of people at training, and then also the game in itself. I think it was 90,000, 92,000 or something like that. So
I've been to a couple of AFL grand finals, and the atmosphere and the lead up and the build up to it. I would imagine you got goosebumps even thinking about it now, running out there.
I remember running around and just smiling. It was just, you're having a kick and you're just looking around at the crowd, and you're in the last game of the year to be able to try to win a premiership. So unfortunately we didn't get there, but even it gives me goosebumps thinking about that moment and the roar after the national anthem.
Yeah,
crowd just roars, and you then all of a sudden you're probably 30 seconds away, a minute away from the bounce down. So looking back, and really special moments, and I'm really proud of.
So you should be. Not many people get to strut their stuff in front of 90,000 people, so I can only imagine. It must have been awesome.
Loved it, and going through the shed and going through some old boxes and looking at jumpers and medals and things like that. There's some things you look back, and as soon as you pick them up, you remember where you were and what happened. And I still got my grand final one, even though we didn't win. A little bit tighter these days, Gary, but still a very, very nice bit of memorabilia.
I meant to say, at this stage, you look like you could still run out there now.
No.
And what are you doing with yourself? You're also hosting a TV or co-hosting a TV show?
Yeah, Yokai Footy. So I've co-hosted that for the last couple of years with Megan Waters. She's an absolute star, and that's been a lot of fun with the AFL and NITV. I think that might change the format this year, though, so depending on how that goes. But I'll be doing something in some capacity. But that's a lot of fun. I do some radio as well now with through the AFL as well. So, and National Indigenous Radio Service. Yep. So that's a lot of fun. And I'm starting to call some games too. But going back to when I first started, I hated interviews. It just sort of made me so nervous. I didn't want to. Yeah. I couldn't speak like this 15, 20 years ago, no way. Yeah. So now it's sort of, the wheels turned, and I enjoy talking about footy now, and it's a lot of fun, and you're seeing other people get into that space as well, obviously, to try to make pathways for First Nations people, and there's some other great people who've been able to lay that foundation for us to follow, or me to follow as well. So I really enjoy that as well. And public speaking, I do a bit of that, and sharing my story as well.
Well, you've got a fascinating story to tell. And just that pathway and speaking up for your people too. There was the Do Better report that came through in with Collingwood. Can we talk about that? That was, you explain what it was about.
Yeah, sure. So that was sanctioned by the football club to understand what... if there was systemic racism through the football club and what happened, because there's, since the early 70s, there's been a fair bit of racism where Collingwood Football Club has been involved. And, during my time there was also some stuff that had happened. And then the report came out, and everyone was really shocked with how it came out and sort of what had happened and the recommendations that are put in place.
What were some of the findings of the report?
Oh, there was systemic racism rife through the football club for decades. Yeah. And that experience of racism, that when it was raised at the football club, people turned a blind eye to it or acted like it didn't exist, and the people got blacklisted and gaslighted if spoke up about it. And I was certainly one of those as well. And one of my brother Haritier Lumumba, he spoke up about it so much, and everyone acted like it didn't happen, and teammates and coaches and presidents, and that's not what happened. He's not going, he's going off on his own, which wasn't the case. So for that to be able to come out and then him to be justified that he was on the right path, and that's exactly what happened. I was so pleased for him. Like the people who knew what happened and had experienced that, we stuck together and tried to support each other as much as we could. But then for my brother Lumumba, he's moved away now overseas, and it was just justified that what he went through, because going through it and then to be able to raise an issue like racism in an organisation like the Collingwood Football Club, or anywhere in general at a big organisation, you're blacklisted. You're like, is he taking it the wrong way? And then all of a sudden you get you're thinking about your own, the person that you are. Are you taking it the wrong way? Are you being too harsh? Is that what they meant? So they make you question yourself as well. When, one thing about racism is you might forget some certain things that have happened and what was said, but you'll never forget how it made you feel. I know how that felt for me personally, and Brother Lumumba and some other guys that experienced that as well. So that was a really tough time, and as we spoke about, when you're in the wrong, and especially a big organisation like that, people don't really want to hear it. But there was an amazing professor that was, who backed that as well and helped write that.
We're talking about that off mic, Larissa Brent, and she's a good friend of mine, and I became, or we got to know each other through work that she did on a murder investigation in New South Wales where 3 Indigenous children were murdered. And she's done so much work. So yeah, I've spoken to Larissa about it, and with racism, and it can be so subtle, and I hear what you're saying, and I can't walk your path because I'm not a black fella. I can't walk your path, but I hear what you're saying, where people make comments. Am I taking that too seriously? And it just sort of slips its way into a culture or an organisation, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and I think I know that it's there's organisations are getting better at being able to make sure that there's pathways to be able to pull that up, or people coming into that organisation with inductions or whatever else it may be, to be able to this is the line, this is what we don't tolerate, this is zero tolerance. So, and that's about inclusion, diversity as well. It's not just First Nations people, but it could be your sexual preference or your diverse, your background, but your culture, where you come from as well, just to be able to make sure everyone from all walks of life are welcome, and to be able to get the support that they deserve to to be able to do the best that they can at their at their job.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard speaking up sometimes, and you respect the people that do actually put their hand up and say, "Hold it, enough. I've got to talk about this."
Well, that's right, because as I said, it's all you want to do is be able to come to work and do what you do, and that's it. You don't really want to be dealing with anything else, and it's about your old cliche I've heard many a times is you treat people how you want to be treated, and it's not too hard.
It's pretty simple, isn't it?
Pretty simple, yeah.
Your time in prison, did it make you a better person?
I think it made me more aware of actions, consequences, and put a lot into perspective for myself.
Yeah.
I felt like I'm more knowledgeable around, obviously, my offending and how it happened, but I don't think necessarily a better person. As I said, I thought I think I'm a good person.
Yeah.
I just did the wrong thing.
No, it was probably a stupid question, like no,
not a silly question. No, not at all.
For like a better person, but I look at it this way. I see the path your life was going. I've seen it with others, that if that incident that put you in prison, if you got away with that, you wouldn't have learnt anything.
Yeah.
At that point in time. So you might have kept going down that path. So whether prison makes you a better person, or whether being accountable, I'll steal your word, being made accountable for your actions points your life in a better direction. Would you say that's a...
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, thinking about that, people say, would you change? Would you change anything? Well, no. Because if I didn't go through what I went through, would I be here talking to you today? Would I have learnt the things that I learnt? Would I have gained the knowledge that I gained through my experience? Yes, I'm disgusted and I'm disappointed that my actions impacted the victim and his family and loved ones and community really negatively. Absolutely, because that's not the kind of person I am. So, yes, but then it is what it is. You deal with the cards that you're dealt, and you try to be a better person, you try to be better. So yes, in a way, yes, a better person. I felt I did, like, just to be able to, different view, different.
Yeah. Well, give you a perspective, and you're smart enough to learn from your lessons. What advice would you give to young fellas that you see are potentially going down the wrong path, or have already gone down the wrong path and are inside? Advice that you would give to them, not just young fellas, young women as well. We quite often forget about girls that are incarcerated. What advice would you give them for their time in prison? What was your old man's advice?
Hope for the worst and expect the best. I don't think I want to be given too much of that advice.
Let's say
No, that's the truth.
let's take it a little bit further. What if you were here? We've got a group of inmates. Young, they've still got chances to steer their life in a direction. What advice would you give to them?
I'll give some advice I gave to a family member not long ago. So they're still incarcerated and wanting to change their life. And I said to them, your mistakes don't define you for the rest. Don't define you for the rest of your life. Yes, we all make mistakes, but that's not us. That shouldn't paint your picture for the rest of your life. You can still change. There's other positive paths that you can follow to be able to help break cycles. There's support. There's people you can talk to. There's people you can network with to be able to figure out what you want to do, because this lifestyle of whether it be drugs, alcohol, breaking the law is not a life to live. If you've got loved ones and family members and people that you love and respect, which there no doubt there would be people, you don't want to be able to let yourself down or them down either. So there are other ways for you to be able to live a successful life, and what that looks like, it's, as I spoke about, is different to everyone. So I think just to be able to, and to be able to want to make that change, at the end of the day, you've got to be the person to want to make that change. You can have all the support and all networks that you want, people to be able to give you or lead you in the right path, but if you aren't going to want to make that change and do it for yourself, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's an important point, isn't it? It's got to come from within. You can have everyone else pointing you in a direction, but unless you've made that decision.
That's right, you can lead a horse to water.
Yeah. And look, we've talked about, you sound like you got the glamorous life, professional footballer, TV host and all that, but you work in the building trade and...
Yeah, in construction. So I've been a part of that for a little while. FIFO, which is the fly in and out industry over in WA, and the Pilbara we spoke about. You spend a bit of time up there. So
spend a lot of time up there.
Don't get heated off at 35 degrees there, mate. She's 40 plus and you keep working.
It's hot.
It's very warm up there. The water intake goes through the roof. But so I've been able to do that. I've been able to sort of work through different sites throughout in Melbourne here in Naarm. So it's it's good. I enjoy that. It's ongoing work all the time. So it's there's always a new project opening up as well, and sort of the construction industry is booming here in Melbourne.
Yeah, and with the talks, where are you giving your talks? The type of talks that you're giving? So
it varies. It could be a podcast. It could be within the prison system. I spoke with some clinicians in Ararat about how they can better engage First Nations clients and prisoners and things like that, to be able to figure out how they can better to engage them and keep them engaged in programs and things like that. I spoke obviously a little bit about deaths in custody as well with First Nations people, which is happening way too often, and how they can support. So it's we had a tour of a prison as well not too long ago, and they spoke about how they're putting things in place to be able to support that as well. So, obviously it's happening way too much. I've got my auntie over in WA, does some amazing things in the suicide and prevention space as well, justice space in WA. So it all varies. It could be a football club, it could be a sportsman's night. So depending on NAIDOC week and Indigenous round with footy and things like that. So it could vary.
Oh, well, keep up the good work. I think you're a role model for how you can keep your life on track even when you go through the bad times. And let's stress that point too. Just because you do a bad thing doesn't make you a bad person. Like I reckon if anyone takes away other than your father's advice,
yes,
I might pass that on to my son whenever he's about to do something. Just because you've done a bad thing doesn't make you a bad person, and you've shown that, and you've been through the system, and you've come out and you've got a positive outlook, and you're making a difference. So keep up the good work.
Thanks, Gary. I appreciate that. I appreciate the chat. Yeah, and absolutely. I think that's I couldn't stress that enough, to be able to make sure, because as you said, sometimes we think we get within ourselves and in our own head and think we are bad people, but it's not just an old cliche, but the light is at the end of the tunnel. Things can turn around with the right mindset and the right support systems around you. But the main person to make that happen is yourself, to be able to want to make those changes as well. And you do that and have the right mindset, it can happen. It took me from a prison cell to playing in front of 90,000 on the MCG Grand Final day. So it does happen, and it can happen.
Great advice. Thanks very much, Andrew.
Thanks, Gary.
So next week on I Catch Killers, we're going back into prison, but this time on the other side of the bars. We're going to be talking to two Corrections Victoria employees, Kylie Davey and Clint Walker. You know, on I Catch Killers, we like looking at crime and punishment from both sides, so it should be interesting to get a different perspective on life on the inside. This episode and next week's episode are brought to you with the support and cooperation of Corrections Victoria. I hope you enjoy.